Hi everyone, and I suppose the first thing to say is welcome back. This is the first of, I guess, a two-part big explanation of church and coming out of COVID-19 restrictions or raising restrictions to stage 3. I mentioned on Sunday that rather than type a big, huge, long email regarding our plan to go forward, I would simply just do a recording of just saying it all out. And here it is. I've decided to put this one out early, if you like, on Wednesday, so that I can forward it out. This is before our MCM meeting tonight. So what I thought I'd do is I'd forward this one out, and that gives a chance for folks to view it. And if you have any questions, you can email us back, or I'll put this out on the Facebook page as well. You can comment questions that you might still have after this. Excuse me. And you can put those there. And I'll do like a Friday video basically answering all the questions and of course any amendments. The way I want to approach today, and I hope you're comfortable and you've got your cup of tea there, because this will take a little bit, is I want to sort of do 5 things. I want to talk about the basic plan first and foremost. Then I'm going to talk about the big why we're doing it like that. Then I'm going to sort of delve down a little bit, for those that are still awake by that point, on what you will need to bring on Sunday if you are coming to do church here, and why you'll need to bring some of those things, which also plugs into some of the finer details in the background of the plan that we have. And then lastly, I thought I'd just finish with a tour, just to give you a look inside the church as we have it now, so that it's not all brand new to you when you turn up on Sunday. So we'll go ahead with point 1, which is the basic plan. So the basic plan is this. We are going to have, same as always, one service on Sunday mornings at 10 a.m. at Waratah, just like before. However, that's where the similarities end. We will be having what we call an A service and a B service. So even though there'll be a service here at the same time each week, in order to, if you like, control numbers and ensure we have appropriate social distancing, we will basically be doing 2 different expressions of church. The first expression, so let's call it the Group A or A service, will be, if you like, a more traditional style service. Maybe something a little bit like what you're more used to. However, the B service will be far more family-focused, outreach-focused, I suppose, and just a more contemporary vibe to it. So let's just say for now, and I know these terms are open for argument and disagreement and debate, but traditional and contemporary. When I talk about those words, I'm really talking about the vibe or the feel of the service. There'll be some things that contribute to those at either end. They'll probably end up having 2 different run sheets, 2 different styles of music, and so on and so forth. I don't want to get into too much detail. But the only other thing I want to say about the basic plan when it comes to here at Sunday mornings is the B service, so that's the family-focused one. That is the one that we will be having children's ministries run at, i.e. creche and charge. That is that our children's ministries are running fortnightly, not weekly. So kids ministries run on that, if you like, B service week. Just quickly, we thought that seeing as for those, in terms of on the polls that we've been running, for those that have been most wanting to get back involved in church, we thought we would do, for lack of a better term, the A service this week or this Sunday, so that those that are of, if you like, a more senior crowd can engage in church, because it seems that families and younger folks, they are, I guess, more fine with doing microchurch at home. Meanwhile, if you are if you're sort of more geared towards the B service, for example, what's happening on the week where you do or where the A service is happening? Well, that is why we are continuing, and in fact we will probably, moving forward in the more long term, improve and refine our live streaming, so that depending on which sort of group, if you like, or which sort of service you prefer, on the opposing week or on the other week where you're not, if you like, necessarily coming together at Waratah, you can still microchurch, or indeed even engage in the live stream at home in your own lounge room. Especially if you're thinking, well, the worship and everything, that's not necessarily my vibe, but I do want to plug in to hear the prayers and teaching and Bible reading and so forth. You can still do that. And you'll see the live streaming station and when we go out there in a minute. So here's the why. There's a couple of whys that we're doing it this way. The big why is this. Simply put, although the church can now, if you like, hold under social distancing, if you're technically doing the maths, we could have a total of 100, in fact, just a tiny tick over 100 if you include the stage, folks in here. There's a difference between doing the minimal effort to tick a box and doing things with a genuine sense of safety. We decided to do what we did, at the elders and I, partly because, and it's worth you knowing that however this happens, doing things right, at the end of the day, when it comes to legalities, it's our heads on the chopping block. It's myself and the elders who we're liable. So we wanted to do something that was genuinely safe, still gave the opportunity for people to come down and do a central church gathering. However, also included and didn't just, get rid of the idea of microchurches, because some people have really discovered that microchurches and if you like, small time kind of stripped back house church is a great way to engage with neighbours or to have deeper conversations and so forth. And sometimes it's just plain easier for families. So we wanted to keep microchurch. We didn't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. We wanted to keep microchurch because I think that going forward there's some hugely beneficial missional aspects of continuing microchurch and meeting in small groups and house churches. Yet at the same time, make sure that we had a central service offered for those who were desperate to get back in the church hall, if you like. Meanwhile, the way of having two different services week in, week out, one week and a different type of service the next week, it means that we can also really explore some more outreach-focused ideas for Sunday morning without messing too much with, if you like, the traditional service. In the background of this big why as well is that one of the ways that we are hoping to keep the church together in the long term, because I suppose we know that the great risk is that there'll be two ultimately different congregations meeting, is that our side events like the fifth Sunday lunch and all that sort of stuff, testimony services and everything, we'll recombine when we can, of course. We'll recombine for those, especially when it gets to summer and the weather gets better. We can have some bigger stuff outdoors when both congregations unite. It's really important to note that Waratah is not less than 100 people. In terms of the church roll, it is over 140 people, and we can't guarantee who will and won't turn up on each day, so to speak, or each Sunday, especially when many people are busting to get back in the hall. The second thing is as well, is that before everything shut down in early March this year, we were well and truly at the beginning of 2020 averaging over 110. So Waratah was in a stage of growth when everything shut down. So we can't just go straight back to Sunday morning the way it was. And that's the big why. We wanted to realize that it's a new normal that's here for the long term. We wanted to do the right thing by God in the sense of make sure we didn't lose the missional opportunities of microchurch. But we also wanted to make sure that folks that really were missing the big Sunday gathering weren't left out in the cold, as it were. When we go on our tour a bit later, you'll see some little differences and nuances that allow a more community feel, because we really do want to make sure that somehow, in some way, everyone is included. I'm sorry that this is really boring. I'm getting bored saying it, but I know it's a lot of information. But if you stay with me, you'll be able to have a really clear idea of what's happening. In order for all this to happen, of course, there's going to be some things that you'll need to bring on Sunday. First thing that I would really encourage you to bring is I can't believe I'm saying this, bring, if you have it, your tablet, phone, or mobile device. The reason, well, actually, I'll come back to the reasons in a minute. That's number one. Make sure that you bring with you your mobile device or a screen if you have it. If you have it. I say that because obviously there'll be some people who don't have it. But just like in the days of hymn books, if you remember that, back in the day with hymn books, it was 1 between 2 or 1 between 3 anyway. And I'll get to why to bring that in a minute. The other thing that you'll need to bring if you want it is bring your own tea and coffee for the moment. We can't ultimately start up a whole bunch of rosters in a week. There are going to be some rosters which will be restarting as we move on. I don't know in which order. I don't know which rosters will be first and which will be last. For the last now, perhaps shall be first. But if you would like to have morning tea, anything that you wish to consume, and you will in a minute see that you can consume stuff, anything you wish to consume, you do need to bring at home, either in a thermos if it's a coffee or tea. Bring your takeaway mug with your coffee, etc. And if you do have little bites and nibbles, do what we did with Josh, little Tupperware container, whatever you want, any bickies or anything in a little Tupperware container and so forth. That would be great. That's what you need to bring for now. There might be updates to that either as I remember or later on in the week. Why do you need to bring those things? And this will go also into the finer details of what will be provided on what we have out there. The why, first of all, is, as I said, we can't just restart all the rosters. I can't turn around to Diane or someone else to say, oh, by the way, can you have a whole PowerPoint presentation done in the next couple of days? That's an enormously involved job. And the reality is, in one sense, we don't need PowerPoint slides for the songs, hear me out, for the songs per se, if now that everyone has gotten on board or gotten used to the Facebook live stream, if we continue the live stream, which we will and are, then you can open up your church online on your mobile device in church, and the song lyrics will be in your hand, literally, just like a hymn book. Having said that, even if that's not the case, and you either can't or don't want to live stream with with it open in front of you, you can, if you receive emails on your phone. This is one of the reasons why I email out all the song lyrics, both Facebook and on the church email. You can open up that email on the phone and actually have that open in front of you. We will, for the first couple of weeks, perhaps be printing some sets of song lyrics for people, but we don't want to be doing that in the long term unless, we want to raise up the budget for printing costs and paper costs and so forward. So that's why you need to bring that. When it comes to morning tea, again, we can't just restart that roster overnight. And also, believe it or not, there are some incredible complexities now around food prep and around food serving. Before we, engage in future kitchen folks in some of the new training that is needed, and we're also sort of pushing back on that as well. So that's a conversation we're having in the background with the union. It's much better if we just bring our own morning tea per se. The other thing as well is now you will have to have morning tea seated and stationary. We can't have it standing around milling about according to these new guidelines that we have. This moves into some of the finer details. I mentioned the possibility of having some printed song lyrics on the provided. The hall, you'll see in a minute when we go for a tour, we have managed to maintain social distancing through essentially setting it up like a quiz night style. So chairs loosely spaced around tables, which are themselves spaced out. That means our total actual seating at the moment is 81. Repeat, 81. That's how many people you can realistically get in the hall with the seating that we, with the maintenance of social distancing that we've engaged in. But what it means is those tables actually mean a few things. So first of all, each table, and we might just number the tables, but that's a Friday job, we'll get to that. But each table will have a few things on it. So apart from the possibility of song lyrics, each table will definitely have a small packet of antibacterial wipes. The other thing that each table will have is a table register or a table roll. There's only 5 seats per table, again, to maintain that distancing. So it's not like you're going to have to sit there for ages filling out everyone's details. If you've been filling out details of 20, 30 people, if you've been to a cafe recently in Mandurah or wherever and you've dined in, you'll notice that if you dine in at the moment at a cafe or a restaurant, they require you to lodge your details, saying that you've been at. That is so if there is any further community spread, they can track it back to where you got it from and who's been where, basically. Welcome to the new church roll. Each Sunday, one person on each table, just one, so we don't have pen sharing, one person will be responsible for taking down the names and details of who is sitting at that particular table. It'll just be a very, very simple name, and we might just get an email address. We don't need, swathes of information and details. So what will happen is that then we as staff will collect all those off the tables at the end of the service, and eventually at some stage during the week, just put them all in a big sack, put them on top of the photocopier and click scan, and that just scans through. And that way we can have a record of exactly who has attended. So that if there is, God forbid, a so-called second wave or anything else, and there's someone contracts COVID or something like that, and it leads back to Waratah, we can immediately get in touch with people who were there on the particular day. So each table will have that roll sheet, and each table will be provided with a small, and please use them sparingly, container of antibacterial wipes. The last person to leave the table, heading off home, if we can make sure that we wipe that table over. Just one big, if we can just disinfect the table. The other thing about the table system is the reason why we went with that rather than doing chair, space, chair, space, chair, space, chair, space, or forcing people to sit on their own, is it's all good. So first of all, we didn't want, I mean, how horrible for a family to have to be separated. But then if you're going to say families can sit together, then you've got some people sitting in 2s and 4s or whatever. And then what about the single person? And there's 1 or 2 that come to church by themselves, or many actually, in our community, that come to church and it's like, well, you've got to sit on that chair by yourself. That doesn't feel like kingdom community to me. So the reason why we've done tables is if a family turns up and they go, yep, we're just going to occupy this whole table, totally fine. And they can obviously sit however they like. But, you know, if a single person or someone walks into church by themselves, they then have the opportunity to, rather than sort of be put on a chair by themselves, to just walk up and say, can I join your table? And everyone is equal when it comes to the seating arrangement. And it's far, far more communal. I'm looking forward to this arrangement also opening up a whole bunch of other things about, you know, especially in sort of the outreach service, doing like, you know, each simultaneous prayer where tables are praying in little prayer groups together, or even discussion questions and responses and things like that, table by table. There's a lot of things that have been opened up. I'm pretty much at the end of what you need to bring and why and the finer details. Some of the other finer details will be coming up with as we go for our little tour. So let's do that, shall we? I'm going to take you on a bit of a tour of the hall. Forgive the shake, and I'm just going to see if... No, I can't, so I'm going to see if I can turn the screen around. I'm going to try and keep this as steady as possible. As you can see here, that's what the church now looks like. You got all the chairs and tables. I'll go up closer in a minute. But just a quick note while we're up this end of the church. My office door here, and we'll just walk across. There's our blue cross still lit up, waiting for us all to return. And here we go. This door here, when you come on Sunday, I'm just going to shut this for now. When you come on Sunday, those doors will have signs on them as out of bounds areas. The reason for out of bounds areas is because one of the things that we're going to have to really brush up on is our cleaning and our cleaning roster as a church. And basically, to put it really simply, the more out of bounds areas we have, the less we have to clean. So as much as possible, we want to try and contain things to what we're using and just that alone, not sort of free-ranging all over the church. Out of bounds areas, so that's the offices, and so the toilets up that end are for staff only. Again, you'll notice here we've got, if I can, offering box and table. This is going to be sort of our entry table here, and this means, of course, is that this door here is actually our entry. So we used to come in down the back there. That entry is no longer happening because, again, if we use that, then we've got to clean the foyer as well. And you know, if we just have it out of bounds, and it saves us having to clean it. So we are now entering directly from the side of the church, and that means that we have minimal surfaces that we have to clean. As we're doing the tour, one of the things that happens at the end of every service, or used to happen, was someone used to lock up, and we had a lock-up roster. One of the reasons why we want to have minimal surfaces that we need to clean is because we have to wipe down every single door handle. So back when you used to go around and check all the handles and check the windows and so on, now you do that same thing if you're on lock-up with one of those in your hand. So, you know, the lock-up roster is now a lock-up and wipe-up roster. I'll put this bottle of hand sanitizer, so we have a central hand sanitizing station, hand sani and wipes. This is for the worship crew up here. We'll probably do far more simpler teams, but I just wanted to reset the stage back to roughly normal after we had the studio in the corner there. So this is for the worship team, etc. They will probably remain seated up here again, to maintain that distancing as much as possible during the sermon. But that's up for grabs depending on the team. So that's what the stage looks like now. And there are some differences. We're still keeping the seated, the sermon seated, etc. Because in the background of everything we do now up here is, as I said, the continuation of our live stream. So as you can see, this is our live streaming station. We've got our laptop with our camera, microphone up there, ready to go. Hopefully that'll catch some of the sound out of the main speakers, etc. So I'm going to go up to the back of the church now. Again, if we do exit to use the playground, we have to make sure that whoever's on lockup wipes down the door handle there. Speaking of out of bounds, at the moment, the other thing is the kitchen is closed to all church gatherings and community groups until we have discussions around the complexities with food preparation. And believe me, there are complexities, my goodness gracious. So on Sunday, kitchen is out of bounds, and it really is out of bounds. The moment someone goes in there to get a drink of water or whatever, we've got to then make sure that's sanitised and so on, because for now nearly basically 2 days a week now, this is a commercial space. There are people that are actually using this to cook food for the community out there. So we're getting income off that, and so this has almost become like a commercial business space only. For the time being. I'm sure things will change and adjust as we going forward. We go to the back of the church. Again, so this foyer door is shut. You'll see that out here, if we looked, the foyer's essentially, this table's all decommissioned. So yes, and I will be wiping the surfaces that I touch during this video. So you will not be entering through here on Sunday. You'll be coming straight into the side of the church if you are coming to the A service. And there you go. So I just sort of step back a bit. And there's a view of your church. As I said, I think it's off the top of my head, unless you want to sit on the couch as well, we have a total seating capacity of 81. And that gives leeway for the folks as well, because there'll be some folks that come to the A service, there'll be some folks that come to the B service, and there will be some folks that come to both services, besides me, because I've got to preach most of the time. Not all the time necessarily, but there will be people that come across to both, and a seating capacity of 80-something. And as you can see, it goes right to the back. I mean, this is the cry room here, so it goes right to the back of the hall. And this is the best way we can reasonably maintain social distance whilst keeping the community feel. And making sure no one feels left out. A couple of things you'll have to put up with. The sound probably won't be that great on Sunday because I'm just setting up the sound and leaving it. I'll just be honest. Because we don't have a sound roster. We've got to get all these rosters back up and going. We will be having to get used to, until we upgrade our live streaming stuff, a live streaming station with a laptop and microphone here. Where are we? You can probably see it over there. Yeah, until we have a U-Butte camera with a big zoom on it at the back of the hall at the sound desk. And as I said, if each table, all we need is to make sure that if each table has someone with their mobile device and who can open up their tablet or their phone, and you can have a copy of the lyrics on each table. I know that might not be the best thing. There might be some difficulties. Yeah, it's probably going to be small print from a while away. But again, remember the hymn book days, and it is what it is. Maybe someone might want to bring their laptop for their table when they turn up. So there you go. So you walk in, you pick a table, and then after the service, if we just have our morning tea or whatever tucked under the table, or not, or feel free to sip your coffee during the service, but we're all meeting together around tables, having our morning tea, etc., staying seated, not milling up the back altogether. That gives you an idea of the space. Again, out of bounds areas. Foyer, the office areas up there behind the stage, the commercial kitchen, and you can, of course, still go into the back hall. We're just going to go down to the back hall here. And those toilets are free for use. As you can see, we've got this set up for socially distancing here as well. That'll change a little bit. But every second week on that B service, we'll be having our kids ministry programs running in the rear hall. And that's roughly about it. Of course, no more than one family at a time in the parenting room in there. And we'll walk back up to the office. Oh, turn this light off. So I hope that gives you, a good look around the hall. I think there's probably 3 or maybe 4 musicians on this Sunday. So even though the stage looks just about back to normal, there is some slight differences, and we will be going forward on a sort of a bit like what's been happening with the live stream, a reduced amount of musos, etc. There you go. Okay.